The Atomic Real Estate Show, bringing you the real estate of real estate. Brought to you by Danny Bennett Productions in partnership with Direct Subs.
This episode is made possible by our friends over at Milady Landscaping. Milady Landscaping is your go-to service for all of your residential and commercial landscaping and hardscaping needs. You can reach them on Instagram at Milady Landscaping, miladylandscaping.com, and 267-836-2102. Milady Landscaping handles all of our properties, my personal and investment properties.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Atomic Real Estate Show. I am Ryan Dolan. I'm here with my colleague Nick Cessna, co-host, and we have our special guest today from Berkshire Hathaway, real estate agent Shane Yaller.
How are we doing?
All right, guys.
Happy to be
so
here.
what we're going to do is we're going to discuss a couple things with Shane today. Shane is an agent with Berkshire, as I mentioned. He specializes in first-time home buyers, residential real estate, Philadelphia area, surrounding suburbs, greater Philadelphia area. Shane's been in the business for 7 years now?
7 years, 5 as a licensed agent.
So 5 as a licensed agent. So in our world, I guess that's kind of still newer in the game, but I mean, you're an experienced agent. Obviously, we closed quite a few transactions together.
A little wet behind the ears still.
Yeah, that's what we think. I mean, I guess you have to be disgruntled at 15, 20 years to kind of really cut your teeth here. But yeah, Shane, so tell us how it's going. This is a challenging market. We're in March now of 2024. And, what problems are we facing? How are you winning? I know you're winning some big deals right now. And tell us a little bit about it.
So kind of my origin of where I got into this, I guess as Ryan said, I was an intern with the Joseph Doherty team, and I was doing a lot of their paper marketing, digitalizing a lot of their files, putting it all together, doing a lot of their social media stuff like that while I was in college. And then after college, I decided I knew all the systems really well, so I'll become an agent, and I just need to learn how to sell because I knew where everything pinpointed was on an agreement of sale and all different kinds of stuff. So I figured making the connections and selling and using my network of people I knew through college, through all my social gatherings and everything like that to kind of hone in on what I needed to do as a realtor. So one thing that's been really successful in the industry with me is I kind of found a niche of, because I'm only 28 years old, gonna be 29 in May. But the biggest thing with that was a majority of my sphere in their 20s weren't ready to buy right away. So I was able to get my feet wet with rentals, where rentals, if I find you a spot, you and yourself, you and roommates, however that may be, I get a half a month's rent. And then I kind of turned that into showing that I do a ton of rentals. I'm engaged with the process, and I was representing a lot of landlords doing both sides of the deal. It was a great way to get people in to real estate, and then knowing that I do real estate, and then kind of having the conversations of turning them into first-time home buyers and kind of going from there. And it kind of gave me a way to show some transactions when you're really raw. Because a lot of times when you're that young,
it's hard to gain the trust of a lot of people.
It's hard to gain the trust. They don't even know if you know anything about real estate. So I mean, I think I started the first year doing 3 deals in the entire year, and then every year it's been a slow build, and it's been great.
I tell younger agents all the time that you have this resource of all your friends that are renting. If you're an agent in Philadelphia, most of you, and you're under 30, most of your friends are renting, right? Mm-hmm. So you have this resource available to you to get started. By a lot of people don't realize that when they go lease an apartment, it's listed on the MLS most of the time, right? And they will offer up half of that commission, usually half of the rent for the month. So if it's $1,000, that agent can make $500 because it's half of the monthly rent usually. And you have to educate your friends. Yo, let me represent you. Let me make sure the contract's better. Let me make sure you're not in some predatory contract because you're a young person and you're going to get taken advantage of. Then you treat them right. It's seamless. You're like, hey, you just have to sign here. You have to do this. Everything is good. You're getting a quick $500. It's not even really about that though. That $500 is minimal. You want to have that process for those people that you're friends with to be smooth. And then they're like, my friend Shane is a realtor. He can help you get this apartment, because their friends are going to, once they get an apartment and they love the apartment, how to get this? Call my friend Shane. And then that leads to maybe another apartment, then a house, then a rental property, then a vacation property. You have to start. See, I feel as though a lot of younger people and no offense to all these younger people, but a lot of younger people have this mindset, and I don't know where it came from, this entitlement of, I'm going to come out of college with a degree and I'm going to instantly be a CEO. You're fucking not, right? Start in the mailroom. You got to start down in the mailroom, start with a broom in your hand, and work your way up. And I feel with real estate, that's a great way to start in the mailroom. Start leasing.
Which
and
is
then grow it
so
from
you.
there.
I guess yeah. So a lot of our viewers are obviously young renters, right? That want to become home buyers, right? They want to find out the tips on how to become home buyer. So when you focus on renters, right, it obviously does a couple different things. It fills, your bucket, and it becomes these renters become buyers, right, after a time. So you're cultivating them into their first home purchase, their second, their investment home, their family's home, right? So tell us a little about like the rental market, the client retention after you get them in. Like, how do you follow up with them? Say they sign a year lease, and like, where's the game plan there?
So the biggest thing with myself, and I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, a lot of times everybody want to have the best representation possible, even looking for a place to live and rent. And it's really competitive out there still. Yeah. And having a realtor represent you and like thinking of different ways it's a competitive to like win the leasing process, because you could be going up against a ton of different competition out there.
When buying gets tough, renting gets even tougher.
Even tougher. So like one thing is big with that is I can get them in. It costs them absolutely nothing. So my service to them is a lot like buying a house too. It's already built into the rental piece. And I just say, hey, let me do the due diligence of sending you X, Y, and Z in all the different neighborhoods, and let's see what's out there. And if you find something else, there's no hard feelings. I'm here to be help to you. This is not like it's not anything different than let me take a little look for you. So that's one thing. It's like really big. I've had so many retained clients like who come back to me. I mail to them. I get them on my social media. I kind of take it as a mayor's campaign is how I learned it, is like tell everybody what you do, even if they don't want to vote for you or don't like you, like be the mayor of your business, be the mayor of like take this as a career. That's one thing in real estate I was always taught. It's not a job, especially when you're coming out. You got to build the ways and all of that. Take this as a career. And I've had some clients who've rented through me 4 or 5 times at this point. And every year their budget goes up, and it gives me the chance to have the conversation about setting your goals. What could be one way toward buying, one way toward selling. I mean, I've had at least 6 or 7 clients go from renters to buyers in the last 2-3 years. So I mean, it's going to keep building with everybody's. I mean, it's like a lot like life. You gain more money in the process. You get different relationships, different things. So you're just going to grow as a person, and I can be that catalyst of helping them out.
The other thing I'm seeing too is once the people that do start with that as leasing agent or on someone's team, and then they graduate from that, then a solo agent, and it seems that they forget that they made most of their success with leasing. Mm-hmm. You're never too good for that. Like go back to picking that broom up. Like I say all the time on my job sites, just because you're a finished carpenter and you're making $300 plus a day, you're never too good to grab a broom. Wow. Like you ain't got nothing to do, pick a fucking broom up. Well, right? Because those people, you may not know. Some people don't want to disclose all of their financials. They may say, "Hey Shane, I'm just not ready to buy," and you get that all the time. People are like, "I'm just not ready to buy." Well, you don't want to like belittle them and be like, "Well, I'm too good for you now. I only do sales or I only do this." Help them, because then they'll remember that, and then that will lead into you're their realtor now.
What's the thought process there, right? It's like, why, if you have, it's basically a renter is an active lead, right? That you can basically take from an active lead to a paycheck as a renter, and then as a buyer to a home. So like, obviously I know some established seasoned agents that probably don't have to do that anymore, but to cut your teeth.
But then they'll have people on their team to do it.
Yeah,
but you get these people, you get these agents, and we've all seen it, where they get this air about them.
They think
get
they're
a little
too
bit
good for rentals. I get this all the time. And to any agents out there, even when I network and do stuff in my office, I'm the pick up the lunch pail and go to work every day. I'm going to make my calls, do whatever's necessary. I love what you were saying, like don't be too good to sweep up your own problems, stuff like that. I market to all the agents around me. Hey, if you don't want to do these rentals, if you don't want to go to certain areas, like I'm at my office in Jenkintown now, my team's there. So I go there 2-3 days a week to just be in the office and like sit at a desk, because I just feel it's really good. It's getting out of the house. And like, and working through some of my stuff. But the biggest thing is I tell all the agents there, if you have anybody going into the city and looking to rent, younger people, like, give me a call. I'll do that work for you. Sure. And then we can work together toward getting them to buy. I'm not here stepping on anybody's toes. I 100% agree with where you're coming from with that. Yeah, that's such a big thing.
Those people will then throw you leads like
all the time.
You can't just focus. I say this all the time about anything in business. If you focus solely on the money, you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. If you focus on the processes, the people, the relationships, and the product, the money is a byproduct of that. And I've seen it time and time again, especially with a bunch of dudes that we grew up with. They focus on the money, they start making mistakes, and next thing you know, they're a statistic on pills. I mean, how many of those stories have we grown up with?
Yeah, just a lot too. You know, it's too many.
That's
right?
the extreme of it.
Too many.
That's the extreme of it. But you focus on the money, you fail. You start to make mistakes because you're focusing on the money. You're not focusing on the quality of the relationships. You're letting the dollar drive you, and you can't do that. You will fail if you do that.
And one thing too about rentals is when I was younger, I didn't really know how to explain paperwork to clients. I mean, even explaining an application, explaining the lease, like really feeling comfortable in projecting how you can be an asset to them is such a big thing. So like now, like at one point I was like sleeping with the agreement of sale, so I knew where everything was on it.
Sure.
I could fully explain it in under 20 minutes to my clients on the phone, in person. And one thing doing a lot of leases, I was in front of a ton of different paperwork, and I was also explaining how easy it is as just representing landlords. Like that's one thing. It's so easy. Like we have credit background checks. I'll vet them. I'll handle all of this inside and out. You're gonna collect first, last security. What's another $1,000 just paying to me, and I'll take care of you too. But it was also a way for me, not as like a listing per se, but even to just do it on the dry run as a listing rental. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it made me feel more comfortable with paperwork, and that's one thing I'll a testament to rentals.
So this is like, I mean, it sounds like almost like getting into baseball season, like a spring training kind of deal. You're down there working, you're learning all the paperwork, you're learning how to sell. But again, you have a rapport now with this renter, right? Like, and now when that lease hits in 12 months, like, why are you not the first? You have to be the first person these guys are calling.
Absolutely.
Like, and say, for example, we're at a great house in Manayunk. It's 127 Davis Street. The Cessna construction team has knocked another one out of the park, and this one's already under contract. But so this would be a prototypical first-time home buyer, right? Home. It's a beautiful, 2-bedroom, three bedroom,
3 1.5.
3 1.5. All right. So they come in here. All right. Lease is up in a month. They call Shane. They say, all right, I see CCS's beautiful property on Davis Street. What's the next step? Like, are you coaching them through the process as a renter on how to become a buyer? Or are you just kind of leaking, a couple tips along the way? Like, what's your process there to convert them to a renter to a buyer? Because ultimately that's what you want to do. You want to keep it moving.
I think a lot of people when they're younger, and they've been renting for 2-3 years and they're building themselves careers and different assets, they love to ask me this straight up question: how much do I need to buy a house? Like that's their first thing. It doesn't matter. They don't even have a price point. There's like, do I have to have 3%? Do I have to have 4%? What are closing costs? All of that. So a lot of it's just like having the easy conversation of educating them on there's multiple ways. Like, would you rather your mortgage number be lower? Would you either more down? Would you rather quick in the door? Are you getting tenants to live with you when you're first in there? It's kind of, a lot of people, they kind of see just the natural progression of everybody around them starting to buy. So you just kind of want to like just have the easy conversation with them about, hey, you're in Manayunk, you're renting for $1,800 now. If you notice everywhere around you has been going up to 22, 23. Let's not keep increasing. Let's take a second to assess what you're making toward what you can be owning this for this price. So, I mean, a lot of it's just having the conversation, also not being too pushy on it, just throwing it out there. I like to give them at least, I like to recircle back with them because a lot of times they'll be like 3 months out on their lease because they got to give like 90-day notice or a little bit more. So you have that conversation then, let them sit with it, and then follow up 2 or 3 weeks after that to be like, hey, do you want to get pre-approved, assess some estimates and stuff like that. And even if they say no, you just had that conversation that nobody else is having the conversation.
Let me know when you're ready.
And if they're telling you no, they're probably not in the right spot anyway. So like your biggest hurdle has to be what? Cash to close?
Cash to close is a lot of times, but also like they don't know if they want to throw all their chips in on their first house, which is totally understandable, but they might in a year after they get that promotion or they get in a relationship where they get another income that comes in. You never know how things roll, but just be there ready to have the conversation and don't push too heavy, but always follow up with that caring hand.
Yeah, and which we we'll do a little more pushing on our side, because now the market has shifted to, everybody thought they were ready for their forever home. Well, the market shifted, right? So now homes like this, well, one, it's a great starter home, right? You live in there for 5-10 years, but now you have a rental asset because, as you mentioned, these rents keep going up. And it's like, if they're going to supersede your mortgage payment, why would you ever sell it to begin with? So coincidentally, you just bought a rental piece without knowing. And that's what we're trying to educate our buyers in. It's like, hey, why don't you hit the single to start, right? Grab a home, stop paying rent, stop lighting your money on fire, and then let the property work for you, right?
Absolutely.
And then, so we could either peel the HELOC on there, we can cash out, whatever it is. There's so many different ways. And back to that closing cost point, Nick and I have came up with so many different creative ways for homes like this on, if that cash to close is an issue. There's so many different alternatives, right? Down payment assistance programs. You could structure seller's assist, which, isn't really customary in these markets in competitive homes. But there's
you can inflate the price.
Inflate the price, right?
Sure.
Like, I mean, these things are going to, the appraisal value here, this is a fair price. I actually think you underpriced it a little bit, but I mean, it's knocked out, right? So maybe you can negotiate, a higher sales price and ask for some back for the closing costs. So you come to the table with less. And we've done that with plenty of first-time home buyers, which said, man, I can't believe you could even do that. And we've had people walk in the door for next to nothing out of their pocket, right?
What it takes, though, is it takes a relationship with an LO and a builder. Like, that's where it really comes into play. You have a good realtor that knows the deal for their client. They approach guys like us and they say, what can I do to get into one of your next homes? I have a client that I think can afford this. All right, put them up with Dolan. Dolan sits down, analyzes all their finances, and he comes to me and says, listen, what do you got coming up next? These people are looking for this. A 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath in Manioc that could be a rental in 5 years. All right, we got this one on Davis Street. Their problem is cash to close. They don't want to tap their pockets too much. All right, so let's inflate the price, right? We'll increase the price on the agreement of sale, and then we'll do a seller's assist or a rate buy down, and then they can come in to this house with this amount instead of having to come in with 20% or 5%. They can come in less. He can give them a hard actual number on what you need to come in here, and then this is going to be your monthly payment with taxes, with insurance, all that stuff. And people are like, I can afford that. Yeah,
how about
we know.
For this house specifically, which we will definitely throw up on screen? We worked this to where we had a seller's assist of $10,000 and a down payment assistance program of $5,000. The borrower legitimately could walk into this house for $0. Basically no money. And if they take their first and last month's rent and they buy it, say, on the first of the month, they, in theory, could skip 4 months of a rent payment or a mortgage payment. So it's like the way you could structure these things, and that's huge for somebody. If you're netting $8,000 a month, I mean, hey, you just gave yourself, $32,000 in your pocket, not going to rent or your first mortgage payment, and you just walked in for next to nothing. So,
what everybody's kind of afraid of in the market right now is like, is this the right time to buy? Is this a good time to buy? I mean, like, any time's a right time to buy, as long as you're educated and look at how the payments can affect you. I feel like it's always about finding the sweet spot where you're a little stretched or you're a little below where you want to be. And then, like, we've seen even back to COVID times when they were at 3% interest rates, the difference between 3 and 6.5 right now is a lot. I know it's doubled, but it's going to go down into the 5s in the next 2 to 3 years. That's just a reality. So if you think in 2 years ago where you were as a renter or a buyer that was like dipping their toes in but couldn't jump into it, if you purchase in 2-3 years, you could set yourself to lowering your monthly payment, even though you stretched a little bit. You lower your monthly payment, say the life got just a bit different. You don't want to be a Manioc and you want to go to Lafayette Hill or whatever. This is a perfect place to rent your house out to. If you can drop your payment by $300,
yeah,
I mean, and then you could be making $600 on rent here. I mean, then that's your place, and then you're a foot in for a rental property. So I mean, people just don't.
You can position yourself, right?
Yeah.
So say you brought up, hey, your lease agreement's up, and on, say, property like this, you buy it as your starter home. All right, and well, now if you keep in contact with your client and you follow up, hey, in 2 years, we may think about moving. They have an elevated interest rate. refinance that rate. It's still your primary residence. You're going to drop. Right now, you just gave yourself more cash flow on your asset and more money when you go to buy your next property. You have net positive cash flow that you can double on a refinance. So, yeah, there's so many different ways that and creative ways that Nick and his team and I have always came up with to kind of help our clients because, one, we want to move these things fast. And your question, when is it the right time to buy? It's pretty much always, it's better than renting at any time, in my opinion.
I think it's just having the knowledge of the markets and feeling it out. And then always, like, I'll be informed with you. I'll be looking just as much as you're looking. I set up hot sheets to look every single day for my clients.
Yeah.
I'm taking a look at everything you're seeing. And then if you have any questions about it, I can be that first call and we can budget it out before we even step into the door to there. But even by having those conversations, looking at estimates, doing all that stuff, you're going to be more informed, if not in the first year that you're ready to buy, when you take that look and then you re-sign your lease. That next year, you're going to feel way, way, way more equipped on it. And I feel like it's business is a conversation and feeling comfortable with whoever you're working with. A lot of times, if the conversation is now, or it's in 2 years, or it's in 3 years, or you just had that conversation with the buddy who's thinking in the same way, like, I want to be able to have that conversation and have you have confidence in me that you're going to make the right step forward.
Nice. Yeah, and you'd be surprised how little a lot of people do know, or they're afraid to ask kind of how that transition works. I mean, we have guys that come in a lot, right? They want to buy that $500,000 home, where one of your listings coming up in Cathedral is like $600,000. Guess what? Everybody's not a $600,000 home buyer right now, especially when interest rates are 7 and 8%. They're just simply not, right? So why spread yourself thin? Why go through that headache to get yourself in that home? Look, if you can make it work, make it work. You're eventually going to be able to refinance out. But our strategy kind of in 2024 has shifted to hit the single, get the first home under your belt. Now you have an asset. Let's let that asset work for the forever home after that. So tell us kind of where your business in 24 is shaping up. I know because you still work with a lot of renters, but you do have a lot of buyers at this point.
Yeah. So last year I did 52 transactions. And
Awesome,
I look into transactions because, like you were saying earlier, I couldn't agree with this more. Don't be stressed on their volume numbers. That's one thing in real estate. Everybody wants to throw up their volume numbers all the time, but I think of, like, I did, I think it was 37 or 38 rental transactions.
Yeah,
so I was
it's
in
a
front
unit.
of
It's a
38
paycheck. I don't
people.
understand the difference.
I look at it as just as like that, and it's like I have simplified.
And then they're going to be a minimum of $500 to you.
100%.
A minimum.
100%. That's what got me
They
through
make
and
some
started
nice
doing
money
it.
on these things. Yeah, I'm surprised that more don't live in that world because it's the free lead source and it's an easy pay.
Well, I had some
You
people
could crush it
relocating.
as a leasing agent if you're a hustler. Crush it.
I had people relocating from San Francisco who are in Navy Square down in like Grad Hospital. They're renting for $4,800 a month. I mean, that's still $2,400. That's $2,400 to me. That's better than a small house after your splits and everything. And I DocuSigned 7 pieces of paper and it was way quicker process. We went out for like 3 or 4 different times. So in that world, it's like, you don't have to like block yourself out of those opportunities. But I think in going into this year is the same thing. I've been really looking at when people's leases are ending and like just looking into my sphere and having the conversations about building you out assessments. I've heard from a lot of different lenders that they can do like a soft pull to look at your pre-approval. A lot of people are really scared that like even if they're not ready to buy in the next half a year, they're like, I don't want a hard pull. I'm going to get a car.
Can you explain a soft pull?
Yeah,
and a
so
hard
soft
pull?
pull really, and the credit agencies get hip to this, right? Soft pulls you can pull from different agencies, and it wouldn't be a hard inquiry on your.
This is your credit. So
yeah,
we're
this
talking
is
about
your
pulling
credit. So this is like the number one question. I don't want a hard pull on my credit. I have an 800 credit score. The common misconception is it's just going to automatically drop. Well, if one lender pulls it, there may or may not be a drop. Any sequential lender that pulls it in that 120 days, there's not going to be any pull to it, right? So what we did now is we're starting to do soft pulls, right? Which you go in there and you kind of see all their liabilities, you pair it with their income, and you can issue a pre-qual and a pre-approval from that, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
You know their status, you know their debt, and like it gives us 6 months ahead to prep, right?
Exactly, and that's where I'm like in the winter. This is. I was saying like the heightened. Everybody wants to start really talking about the spring market after the Super Bowl. So like this time between Christmas and now, I've been really just talking to a lot of different renters who've been renting at a high price or different kinds of wherever they are in life. But I've been really trying to go back to a lot of my renters and say, hey, let's look at the idea of buying going in. I've now pre-approved 5 first-time home buyers going into the year, and we're ahead of the schedule. So then when the April and May come, and like every year it's just going to be crazy from inventory sake. Like you feel well more equipped than like
the guy that calls you in April saying, "Hey, I need a pre-approval. I really love this house. I want to get it."
For sure. And I just want to keep having these conversations with people. And anytime people want to talk about real estate, I keep having these conversations and just making it easier. And to just think, just prepping them a little bit more off the get is a big thing. And just, I personally am just staying focused on this year on straight transactions, whether that's renting, buying, selling, and just staying the course, head down, and being able to do any different kind of facet of real estate.
Which, look, I appreciate it. You're going to start seeing a lot more Shane's clients, right? He's making a big splash on the scene, which I appreciate. He always makes the introduction. It's if we're out watching a basketball game, and real estate comes up. The next morning, I'm looped in through text or an email with his client, even if it's a year out. We just kind of start talking about it. We start seeing what their goals are. We start looking at their numbers. And really, to your point, when they get out and they say, "Hey, I'm ready," well, we already know. We're way ready.
They want to know. I mean, like, there's so many people I know, they want to feel comfortable. They want to know that that's your guy. Comfortability is such a big thing because you're assessing your finances in whole. A lot of times, even when they're applying somewhere, I have to look at their application to submit in. So I'm kind of an open book to them and just take a non-judgy approach, be really easy. Even if you want to ask questions about what they're doing, it's like they want to know that you're in their court. Because a lot of times there's no playbook to even the first time you rent or the first time you buy. It's kind of he did this or he did that. Yeah. Can I do something like that? They want to feel comfortable.
Get those calls all the time.
They want to feel comfortable. They want to know that you're taken care of, and I can be a neutral perspective to their whole summary of who they are as in their careers in whatever walk of life they are. So I just want to bring in comfortability to them and let them know, hey, if it's not now, it's later. Or if it's now, let's prepare you to be the best version of a buyer you can be possible.
And a lot of people, you got to set them up early because they've never taken care of their finances. Because we teach all this stuff to our kids in high school and even college, but we don't teach them shit about how to be financially sound and how to be ready to buy homes, how to do your taxes the right way, how to build your credit score. We don't teach any of that shit. And if you can hook up with people like a good loan officer that has access to credit repair people, all that stuff, and then you can get them set up, because we get this shit all the time just because we grew up in a small neighborhood and, yo, bro, I want to buy one of your houses. Like, dude, you've been selling coke since we were 16 years old and you've never had a fucking job. You can't afford anything. You may have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in a shoebox buried in a yard somewhere, but you can't afford shit. So, like, you got to get a job and you got to start building your credit up. And you don't exist as a human being to the government for the past 15 years because you've never had a real job.
Yeah, I get the guy who's a subcontractor, works in the union. He's showing 30,000 on paper, but he's a bartender. Great person to start talking.
Love our bartenders.
I love our bartenders. I have a few friends of mine too who have bartended. They are strapped with cash, but they're only showing like 30,000 on paper. So like when they want to talk about buying, I just talk about, hey, let's build your credit up. I mean, they might even have like a 600 credit score because all they're showing is like a student loan. It's like, hey, let's take out a credit card. Let's pay it in full. Use some of that cash to just pay that. It's like making the little things that you're not taught in school. I mean, just even building your credit, even building who you are as a buyer. Like the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac aren't going to give you $300,000 unless they know you're a sufficient like person to lend to credit with. Some people have this weird that credit is like a bad thing. I need to have that conversation of like they want your money.
Yeah,
they want your money,
of course.
And they know you're reliable because they've given you money and you've paid that off. And you don't even like. I took a class with Ryan. It was like the most beneficial class I've ever taken. I still talk about this to everybody. It was at the Pyramid Club.
Oh,
remember
nice.
When you had the credit people in? Well, I didn't understand credit cards I thought you had to pay your credit card to zero every single month, and that's how you build your credit. Well, they told me you really have to pay down to like 6 to 14%, every single month, and then leave an allowed amount on there. Maybe in 2 years, you open up another interest-free card, maximize your spending on that, pay the other one down, and just kind of keep playing the credit game, but not giving them all of your money. And my credit score, that I was raw at that point. This was like 5 years ago.
I was just going to say this is pre-COVID, so
this was right when I became an agent, and I had a car loan and a credit card that had $300 that I had to give them to be able to use. And I went from a 540 credit score in 2 years to over a 700 credit score, and it was all because of what they taught me in that class.
It's funny that at our age now, and our experience level now, we take it for granted sometimes, and we've recently been talking about this, and that's kind of what led us into, doing this show and taking over the show, is that an event that he doesn't even really remember, right? It was a major impact on you, and you remember it because you've done these events.
Yeah.
And it's the knowledge that we've learned from all the mistakes that we've made, all the failures that we've made, and the successes. And we always reach out to people, and we always help people. Anytime like someone's a younger agent like yourself, they call us. A lot of times people are intimidated because younger people don't want to act like they don't know anything, right? Well, when you humble yourself and you actually ask people that are doing it longer than you and advice, and you meet guys like us who were lucky enough to have guys at our age when we were his age,
Exactly.
helped us out. So we have the mindset of like, we're always going to help someone that approaches us and wants information. Like if I just have to give you information and give you experiences and I can help you out from what I've learned, we're always going to do that. But we've taken that for granted. And now, like, just hearing him say, like, this is one of the best classes ever taken. And it's probably something you really don't even fucking remember.
You have
and
no
it's,
idea.
You know what I
It's
mean?
been a little while. I just only remember because you said
It was a guy from the credit bureau,
Yeah.
and it was
I
so...
remember Dave Wheeler. He's great. Dave's a good buddy of ours, and I've worked with Dave probably for about 14 years. But they teach you so many things about credit that you would just otherwise not know. People think, hey, close my credit card, take the trade line off. It's a negative thing, right? It's the worst thing. But, I guess the whole point of this is anytime finance, real estate, moving comes up, link up with somebody that just knows a little bit better, right? It's because it doesn't have to mean, hey, we're going to start moving here. It's just start learning about your financial literacy. You mentioned the bartenders and cash. People think they can't buy homes. They sure as shit can buy homes. There's asset depletion loans. There's
you just got to start claiming some of that money.
I have a bar.
Hey, if you got $1 million in there, but you can deplete that asset, you can go that route too. There's plenty of non-qualified mortgages that you can do different things. So like my thing to everybody is, if you have money, there's always a way to pretty much get you home. If you have shitty credit, there's not always a way to get you home.
But then once you get that home with a creative way, once you get that home, you can always, once it's stabilized and you've been paying, then you can refinance. So the fact that you've been avoiding paying the government and Uncle Sam for 15, 20 years, you're going to have to pay something to then go from a non-existing human being to now on paper owning something. So you can do that. It's going to cost you a little bit more monthly, but then you can refi into a normal thing while your credit and everything else being built up and you become an actual human being.
Yeah,
on paper.
I just think like, especially the 20-year-old coming out of college, they think they're strapped with debt or strapped with student loans and everything's tied against them. They don't understand how the world around you wants to see you use their money and use it in an effective way, not tap it out or go there, but like use to a percentage or get that interest-free card and maximize your spending on that, and then like move your money around the right way. And I just don't think there's like, nobody's telling you that. Everybody wants to give you X, Y, and Z on how to get to here, but you got to make the little moves here to get to there to, I just think it's great. Like I had that bartender, like I was saying, he's bought 2 houses from me. Yeah. He's bought in great areas too. He just bought one in Graduate Hospital. He had one on Broad Street in South Philly, like on Wharton, like that area. It's great. It's good to see that he was able to get to that point. And then I was able to educate him to take that job that Uncle Sam can see, keep doing your bartending stuff. Claim your rentals, and then also put your money to, he ended up putting it to like some yield savings and stuff like that. And then like, but also like not stashing all your cash in a shoebox, but putting it in the right channels to work for you, which you don't ever get, You never taught this.
It's also how rich people money launder.
100%.
Real estate. So if you actually you have a shoebox full of money, you can launder that pretty easily. You know, it's controversial stuff, but you know, that's what rich people do.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole life insurance policies and all that kind of. I mean, I can go on and on about this stuff, but you know,
well, it's also they're not afraid to ask, like you were saying just now. They're not afraid to have that conversation to just say, "Hey, I'm curious about that." We have to. A lot of times you can be intimidated to buy a house or intimidated on the next thing. Just having these conversations, even talking today, like breaking down that wall of like showing who you are as a financial outlook goes a really long way. Because you might think you're doing it the right way because this buddy or that buddy is, but like you need to break down that wall to say, hey, maybe I could be doing it a little bit different that can maximize everything else around me.
And you can talk to different guys, right?
Yeah.
You're a seller. You do the building. I do the lending. So we all probably have a little tweak on how it kind of works.
And we've all failed. You said that earlier.
Too many times.
I failed so many times as a realtor. I mean, but I learned so much from the failing, and I'm ready to just take that and learn to the next job.
See, the thing, like you talked about, like people have this hesitation to jump in. It's like double dutch. Like the girls playing double dutch and they never jump in. People have this inherent fear of failure, right? And we, as guys who've been in the business, have failed, right? And anybody that's successful at anything, athletes, actors, anybody, they've always failed before they succeeded, or they failed while they're succeeding. But there's one thing that stuck with me that somebody said, that you can never fail if you don't start. And you can never learn from the failures if you never start. So just fucking start. Just leap in and jump.
What's the worst that can happen, right? It's a learning experience. It's a story. But, you know, so you mentioned that 20-year-old guy coming out of college. Now, what I find interesting about your business is, you know, we're a little more hyper-localized, right? We use a big referral base. You grab your guys and farm your clients from so many different, unique sporting activities, meeting places. Like, one thing I find awesome is your hockey leagues that you guys are crushing it. And you have people from all throughout the country that come, and these are smart, brilliant, well-qualified people.
Most dudes who play hockey are disciplined individuals.
Yeah, that's a lot of my discipline comes straight from hockey.
They're great clients.
It's
they come in, I'm like,
it's the sitting out on a weekend to play hockey. It's the traveling. It's the getting your grades.
It's the 5 a.m. or 10 p.m. ice time.
In college, it was 6 o'clock in the morning every single Wednesday for practice for 2 years.
I say it all the time. Like,
I'm in college. You know how hard that is in college?
I thought you guys were late.
No.
You get ice time late too?
Well, then we had cheaper times in the morning. We were eating breakfast at the dining. I was waiting outside the dining hall to eat because they didn't open till 8.
And you can't be hungover.
No way. Because then, good luck. You had people fighting for positions and stuff like that too. So yes, we're definitely more disciplined. But I farm a lot of my business. Same thing. I do it through the mayor's campaign, as I keep coming back to.
Which is a great thing. I never even heard that. You know.
But I'm from Manayunk, Roxborough. I got my whole social circles around here. I have a softball team here that I still connect with, like a majority of the neighborhood. There's like 6 teams. It's just like literally all the Roxborough guys who are still living here. I got my neighborhood in Fishtown that I'm living in now. There's a whole circle of people I know through that. I'm a member at Philly Cricket, so I'm golfing and being in front of a ton of people there. I coach on Friday nights, so I'm in front of kids for power skating at Wissahickon Skating Club. I also play there in the senior hockey program. We're playing all over the place.
They were some of the best open ice hockey games I ever played.
Yeah,
Was at Wissahickon.
I love that.
So it was like Friday or Saturday nights, like 9, 10.
Yeah, I used to do that when I was in
probably 7 years.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I used to do that to get ready for, like, all through the summer to get ready for the next year. They would let me skate with the older guys. But yeah, I mean, there's just communities within that. I've sold 6 houses within my rink alone, directly from my rink. And it's all in, and then like all of that opens them up to their referral of people. And it's like, I always say when you're getting into real estate is find communities. I'm a big believer in all different kinds of communities and just like being a focal point inside of every different community. I love those different kinds of stuff. I feel like that's where impacts are made, and that's where growth is really made, is jumping into, get involved, be in these different, that was one thing about coaching. I just wanted to get involved more in my community. The ability to want to be there and be not only just a financial asset to them, but also believing in the people around you to bring you back business too. And also just being, I thrive
When they
off
trust
that
you.
stuff.
If they trust you with their kids, they're going to trust you with business.
For sure.
And he says, impact. This is a guy not chasing dollars, right?
No, it's not about dollars.
And what I find funny about these competitive leagues and coaching and all that stuff, I do it all as well. These people, they see you in action, right? So if they see you out on the ice, kicking ass, discipline, doing the right things, they see you teaching their kid gently, teaching them the ropes. They're going to say, well, what does this guy do in business? He's going to mimic out here what he's doing in business. So it's like
you're building trust.
You're building trust, but you're doing it while you're whipping someone's ass on a hockey rink, or you're out there coaching their kid Little League baseball. Whatever.
You have to be genuine about it.
Yeah,
too.
I always say this is so easy. It's not that hard to be a good guy. There's so many people who strive to just put on personas of this, that, and the third. It's not that hard to shake somebody's hand, to call them, to also reach out when somebody's hurt, or reach out when somebody's in all different walks of wherever. It's not that hard to take that extra step to be the good guy. You know what I mean? To just put it forward.
Yeah.
It's really actually easy. It's actually easier to do the right thing.
Yeah.
To be a shitbag, kind of like.
Listen, we were both shitbags at multiple points in our life, right?
But then you became a better person because of it. You looked at it in threefold.
Well, because it happens. Business stops, right? Like, who wants to work with a guy that knows it all? Who wants to work with a guy that's only chasing the buck, right? And does nothing else except toot his own horn on social media, tell everybody his numbers, how great he is, right? Like. There's so many other ways to just do that genuinely, right? And let your work. That's always kind of been my thing, right? I went through phases where, look, we're swagging, we're wearing suits, we're rocking. We're trying to flaunt it.
Extra tight.
Yeah, still show out. I mean,
extra tight suits.
Right? You look
real snug.
Good, feel good, right? But no, I mean, I think that's why I love your business, because it's never really any bullshit, right?
Yeah.
It's always, you already have a great rapport with the client. So they come to me, they're pretty prepped, right? So it's an easy transaction, and then I make a friend out of it. And then, Ryan Frame from Goosehead Insurance, who's awesome, right? Hockey player. We meet these guys, and they're run-of-the-mill guys just like us. Everyday people, just trying to do right, just trying to work their ass off. So Shane's got a great book of business. I love where he pulls all of his clients and his sphere from. It's really unique from all walks of different life.
I think college is one thing that was huge too. Like, I pull from all of the. One thing about Manayunk, I went to IUP, but one thing about.
My brother went there for a year before getting kicked out.
It's a big party school, but I was able to party and meet a lot of people. But also, so many people are, because it's in Western PA. So many people from the middle of PA, Pittsburgh. I live with my roommates from Pittsburgh, but so many people have now moved to this part of, because all the tech, it's been booming in here. People moved to Manayunk. I know so many people. It's like. They're all like, I'm living in Manayunk now. I'm like, I'm from Manayunk. They're like blown away. They're blown away.
We're the gatekeepers.
But then I'm like, oh, you're from Manayunk, and they know me for that firsthand connection, and they've now settled. They're starting to put their roots down and being a Philly person. I'm like a conduit, like the in between building through.
Like, hey, I can help you buy.
And it's crazy because my sphere of college is one of the strongest facets of my business, especially renters who are coming here and they just want to they want to feel like they know somebody from Philly, but they know somebody from afar, and I can bridge that gap.
Well, it's refreshing. I've never met you before today, Shane.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't do any research on you before you came.
Real,
Ryan said, "Hey, I got this younger kid coming on. He's a great kid, and I really like this kid." It's actually refreshing seeing your mindset on this stuff, because, and I honestly, we talk about this all the time. There's like 4 or 5 agents under the age of 40 that I'll even deal with, because I think most of them are absolute useless morons. And you seem to have this mindset. I like it. It's refreshing. I haven't looked at your social media or anything. So hopefully, what I'm hoping is that when I go after this and I look at your social media, I'm hoping that I get that same impression from the physical meeting and first impression that I got from you, which I'm impressed by you. I hope that I get that through social media too. And how can people do that? How can people take like, all right, this kid's clearly a good dude, right? Great. And he's starting things the right way, and he's starting from the ground, and he's putting himself in front of the right people. How do you then take that mindset and transfer that over to social media? because that is what is so big now.
One big thing I sat down this year and I said in the first quarter while we're slow is I'm going to sit down with somebody through social media, and I'm working with somebody. I'm in like a think tank group that actually just started, and they're going to guinea pig me. So I'm working on cleaning my social media up even more. And one thing I said is I don't want my social media to be this like awards trophy case of every deal I did. Here's what I did.
Your chest,
I don't want that. I want it to be more informative, how I can help, good stories, laughable, and something people, whether that's a story of saving money or I found a subcontractor that could help them. Like we prepped out with 2 handymen and a painter, and I have a handyman who could help you out, like a sub guy who's even better. Like I want to be the person that, like, I want to put my image on social media going forward. And this one thing in 2024 that I want to clean up, and I'm doing a lot of work with getting reels and stuff together, is to be more approachable in like a realness piece than just showing I did this house, I did that house, because it's really hard to like bring that in that perspective if you're just putting yourself out there as a numbers guy, because nobody. You want numbers, people.
And it works for people.
If you want numbers,
sometimes the numbers
yeah,
work.
for sure. You have to mix it all in. You got to have like a melting pot of all that. But if people want to chase numbers, you're going to call Mike McCann, who's got the most numbers in the city. Like, obviously, they're coming to you not just because they're staring at numbers. So I need to be able to put that image out to be less numbers-based and more like friend-based.
Shane, I'm hoping that you can find a way to perfect that social media and present yourself in a way that you presented yourself to me today for the first time meeting you. And hopefully you find a way to do that. And I'm actually looking forward to that. When we're done here, I'm going to follow you on social media, and I look forward to seeing you grow in business. And anything that I can do for you, feel free to reach out to me. And
yeah, so actually tell us where our viewers or any new person that comes to watch the show can reach you at. Like, I know you work for the Joe Doherty team. They're an amazing squad for Berkshire Hathaway. But yeah, tell our viewers where they can kind of reach out to you.
Well, I'm in the city. You can follow me at Realtor Shane, BHHS. But in general, you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on LinkedIn. Anywhere you can find me.
Awesome.
The biggest thing with my team, and why I stick with my team too, is we kind of cover all different bases of stuff. My boss is a master stager. He's such a wealth of knowledge. He's been in it for over 20 years. Joe Doherty, he's the best, and he's more of a suburban agent. He deals with relocation. He's more of a predominantly a listing agent. Then I have another boss, Marianne Hector. She's been in the industry for like, I think 37 years or something like that. And then I have Carrie Garen Boyle, who's not on our team, but we all work together in this little penthousey area over at the Jenkintown office. And one thing about them is I can go to she's very almost type A, but she's like great with the paperwork, great with numbers. She's like the checklist of everything you need. She's also been in it for like 30 years. And the thing is with all of it is like, I can go to there's a one-stop shop for any different kind of transaction that I go through that makes me feel comfortable. If I'm dealing with a negotiation piece that is something I've never seen before, I can go to Marianne. If I need to smoothen things over, Joe's that big, loving personality that can help me get the deal to the finish line in the right way mentally to go through it. If I need to be type A, straight on it to the books, find the little piece in the agreement of sale that's like a back clause, I'm going to Carrie, and she helps me set my goals for where I'm getting to. So like, the piece of having our team where we're at is like they give me freedom to do whatever I'm doing and build my own brand of business. But sure. I take a little piece of how they do their business in so many years of real estate and bring it together, and we think tank together. And then I have coworker Ben, who's on the Joseph Doherty team with me too. He does so much work in the Poconos area. He's Jenkintown Poconos guy. So if I have anybody there, he's the first Texas.
He's second home.
He's
guys.
on their
ML.
He's on their MLS. He's taken that area under control. He also does a ton in like Royersford, Pottstown area that I don't really even know about. It's a little bit further out, but like I have a guy who I can at least have a conversation with, and they all know if there's a rental need, they come right to me. So like we have all that, and they give me full reign to just be me, and that's the one thing I don't want. Like there's so many controlling teams out there. And we think tank together, and I think it works really well. And right now, I'm just really happy where we're at, where I'm growing to. We check in on goals and get to where we need to be, and that's what my team does for me, and I can't thank them enough.
Oh, dude, I love it. I love the trajectory of your career. You've been a great partner for me and a friend personally. I can't wait till you guys link up because I think you could do great things as well. Please look up Shane. He's an amazing agent, a good partner, and a friend of mine. So, just wanted to thank you again for coming on the show. Nick, awesome insight as always. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Atomic Real Estate Podcast, and we'll check you later.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
If you enjoyed our episode, please consider supporting the show by rating and reviewing the podcast. Also, check us out on Instagram at Atomic Real Estate Show to find out when new shows drop and to participate in our community Q&As. The Atomic Real Estate Show was brought to you by Direct Subs. Direct Subs is the #1 place for real estate investors to connect with local contractors for their flips, rentals, renovations, and new construction projects.